Hey y'all, Shayla from Making Lemonade from Lemons, and today what I want to do is I want to go through how I make sourdough bread from beginning to end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn you around and I'm going to show you what that looks like. So I have taken my starter out of the refrigerator. I took it out last night and I haven't done anything with it yet. I actually have 2 jars of starter because I keep 2 of them going just in case I want to make more than 1 loaf of bread. So I took it out of the refrigerator. I let it sit on the counter overnight so that it would come up to room temperature. So let me show you what it looks like. Okay, so if you see down inside the jar, you will see it has liquid in it. Okay, and that liquid, right now it's pretty clear. This one I think maybe has more. You might be able to see it a little bit better. It's starting to get a little bit grayish, but it's not too bad. That's normal for it being in the refrigerator and sitting. So it's just basically saying that it needs to be fed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to feed it. You can use that discard to make multiple different things. I've shown you guys in a previous video how to make sourdough pancakes, and so I will leave a link to that up there. So anyways, so I'm going to show you how I feed it. And then once I do that, we're going to have to let it sit a little bit. Okay, so I have my jar on here. It's zeroed out. And then I'm going to pour in 200 grams of my starter. Now you can pour the liquid off if you want to. If you don't, you don't have to. That liquid is, it'll give it a little bit more of a sour flavor. So it's really kind of up to your tastes. After I do that, I'm going to zero it out again, and I'm going to add my whole wheat flour. You can also use rye flour. You can use all-purpose flour. That is okay too. The only thing with using all-purpose flour is that sometimes it takes longer for that to actually react. But if you already have an active starter, then using all-purpose flour is just fine. To get your starter going, generally you want to use a more whole grain. The more whole grain it is, the easier it is for that to get started. So, rye flour seems to be the one that is the most active, then whole wheat flour, and then all-purpose. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put 200 grams of whole wheat flour in. Now I need 200 grams of water. And I'm using 200 grams of filtered water. And this is what's called 100% hydration. And so then you just kind of mix it up together. You want to make sure that it all gets mixed together. Okay. So I'm going to scrape the sides down, because even though the jar looked like it was almost completely full, once you mix it together, you can see that it does not fill up the jar. Now, what you want to do after this is you're going to want to put this into a warm place in your house. So either the oven with the light on, your microwave, or above your refrigerator, whatever you feel comfortable with. And you're going to let this sit until it is almost to the peak of rising. You just want to make sure that whenever you put this in a warm, dry place, that you put the lid on, but don't tighten it down. That way it allows this to breathe. Okay, so when you are working with sourdough and you are looking for the rise of the sourdough starter, this is what you're looking for. You're looking for the bubbles. And basically you want it to have risen more, about double. Sometimes they don't rise double, sometimes they only rise to, you know, a few inches above, that kind of thing. But you just want to make sure that you are catching it before it starts to deflate. So my starter is ready to go, and so I am going to get started on making my sourdough. Since my sourdough starter is ready, I'm going to go ahead and get started. My scale is not working, and so normally I would use my scale. It's a little bit more precise, but from what I have seen, sourdough is pretty forgiving, and so I am going to be doing the recipe without measuring it on the scale. So I'm going to do it according to cups, which can be a little bit off because flour is less dense than water, and so the grams may be a little bit off. But I will show you how it's supposed to look. Okay, so the first off, I'm going to put my flour in here. I'm going to put 5½ cups of bread flour. And I use bread flour because when you do sourdough, it calls for what's called a strong flour in most recipes, and that's generally a bread flour. Bread flour has added strengtheners, so that's 3, 4, and 5. Okay, then I'm going to put my salt in here. It is approximately a tablespoon of salt, and while it seems like that would be a lot of salt, it's really not. So a tablespoon of salt. Just making sure that to incorporate the flour and the salt. All right. Lid for the salt. Okay, so now I'm going to get started with my water and my starter. And that's all those are all the ingredients that you put in to a sourdough bread loaf, generally. So I'm going to go ahead and measure out 1.5 cups of the starter. And if you guys see me using this, and this is a 1 cup, and it's got a place here that shows you for a 1/2 cup, so I can use this for both, which is awesome.
And all the things I didn't say, there's wrecking balls inside my brain, standing tall with all my faith, there's empty voices in my head, and they will always be around until I found
There's 1. All right, and a half. And then I'm just going to mix it together.
Beautiful woman, sometimes we simply fall out. Beautiful woman, beautiful woman, tied to your love in a doubt. Beautiful woman, and all the things I didn't say, there's wrecking balls inside my brain. Standing tall with all my faith, there's empty voices in my head, and they will always be around until I found the one again. And all the things I didn't say, there's wrecking balls inside my brain.
Oh yeah, so much better already. It's slightly sticky, but not much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back in the bowl as it is. And I'm going to do what's called a stretch and fold method. And that is going to help to strengthen the dough, which kneading helps to strengthen the dough as well. This will strengthen it even more. So, in your stretch and fold method, what you're doing is you're getting it and you're pulling it until right before it breaks, and then you fold it over. Alright, so you're just going to kind of do that all the way around on each side. Okay? And it is okay that your dough is a little sticky. In fact, it should be a little bit sticky. And see, I pulled that one until it broke. You're wanting to pull it as far as it can go without breaking. And I broke it there again. And see, that just goes to show that it is not ready. Your dough is not ready until after you can pull it pretty good, and then it won't break. So that's why I said this actually helps to strengthen it, and that's what is going to help your dough rise. So I'm going to let this sit, and it's going to rise for about an hour, and then I'm going to stretch it and fold it again. Okay, it's time for another stretch and fold. So you just kind of get your hands up underneath it and stretch it and fold over. I just do mine at 90 degree turns. A lot of other people do 180 degrees and then they'll do a 90 degree, and I just do it this way. Okay. And if you can tell, I don't know if you can tell from the last time that we did the stretch and folds, like it is already so much stronger just because it's rested like this. So I did the stretch and fold. I gotta do it at least one more time. Once, what I'll do is I'll bring you back when I do that one, and I'll show you what it looks like whenever it's actually ready. So what I'll do is I will bring you back. If we have to do a fourth one, I'll show you what it looks like and the reason why. So I'm going to go ahead and cover it, and then I'll bring you back. So it's been another hour, and I'm going to do another stretch and fold, and we're going to check to see if it is ready to do a bulk rise. And if it is, then that'll be it until I start to shape it. Otherwise, we'll have to do another stretch and fold. So I'll show you what you're looking for. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do a stretch and fold. Okay. So when you are looking to see if it is ready, you're going to pull the dough up like this. And you're going to try to see if you can get it really thin. And it's called window painting. Basically, you're getting it really, really thin before it will tear. So you can almost see through this dough before it starts to tear. And I'm not talking about up here, I'm talking about down here. And it's really super thin. I can actually see my finger through here. And now it is, but it's so really, really thin. And that's what you're looking for. So it is actually ready to do its bulk rise. So I'm gonna leave it alone for a couple of hours and just let it rise. And then I will come back and shape it after it's risen for a couple of hours. I ended up putting this in my oven with the light on because my kitchen is cold and so it wasn't rising like it should. So it has risen, so now I'm going to turn it out and I'm going to start to shape it. You can either use a dough scraper or you can just use your hands like I do. A lot of people use a dough scraper and it probably would work out better, but I don't have a dough scraper, so I use my hands. We're going to shape it, and so at this point you do not want to put flour on your countertops, because what happens is that you'll actually end up working too much flour into your dough. And so with sourdough, you don't want to do that. One of the things that's really very beneficial if you are going to make sourdough breads like this is using a bench knife. So what I do in order to shape my loaf is I just kind of come from behind, I push it around, and then I pull it back to me. I do this multiple times, and so not only is this actually shaping my loaf, because I'm going to use my my oval Banneton, so this isn't really shaping it right now as much as it is creating a surface tension. Because you're causing this surface to become tight. And that is going to cause a really good oven spring later on. So I have some little bubbles right here, and I'm just going to pinch that. So if you get any kind of, like when you have, because if you've got a really good dough that has, you know, done really good rising, you might have some bubbles like that, and you can just pinch it. I'm just trying to get, see that there's a bubble. Okay. So at this point, I've got pretty good tension. One more time. All right. So what I'm going to do, well, I just had to pop that one. So let me do it one more time. I know I keep kind of scraping it off of the view right there. I'm trying not to, but I don't know if you can see right there is a bubble. So I pop it. Alright, so which means that I'm going to have to add tension again. Alright, so at this point, I'm actually going to turn it over and let it rest for another 10 minutes. Yes, this is a process, but I believe it's a process well worth it. The bread is supposed to be better digestible, and my husband and my boys really love it, so that's one of the reasons that we do it too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let it rest for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to do the final shaping. Okay, so it's been sitting here for about 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and do the final shaping, and then it'll go into my refrigerator overnight. So what I do is I stretch it out here and fold over. As you see, I still have some bubbles. What we're doing is actually creating even more tension. So I will stretch it out here. Stretch it out here. Stretch it out here. Stretch it out here. And then I'm going to stretch it this way. I'm going to roll it up. And pull it toward me. Alright. Then I'm going to put it in here, which it has had, it's got a lot of flour in the banneton. This is called a banneton. Okay, it's an oval banneton, and it's got a lot of, okay, I'm going to pull this up this way. I'm going to pull this up this way, and I'm going to pull these over this way. Okay, and just kind of pat it down there. And then, but the flour, it is heavily floured so that it, whenever, after it sits, because it'll sit, and while it sits, it will start to stick to this cover, the banneton cover. And so in order to help prevent that from doing that, you put a lot of flour on it. That way it doesn't take out the, it doesn't deflate the dough whenever you take it out of the refrigerator. Alright, so I'm going to get this in here, and I'm going to put this in the refrigerator. It's going to sit in the refrigerator overnight. And then I'll bring it out in the morning, and I will get it in the oven. Okay, it is the next morning. I have been up and about, outside, that kind of thing. So, but what I need to do at this point is I need to go ahead and get my sourdough in the oven. I have my oven preheating to 450, and it's got my pizza stone that I'm going to be baking my bread on. I also have a pizza peel here that is going to help me transfer my bread into the oven without touching anything. And I also have parchment paper. I've got my lamb. You can also use a really sharp knife. And I actually really like this lamb. I wasn't sure how I felt about it in the beginning, but I actually really like it. Alright. Turn that over so it doesn't continue to roll. And then I have my bread that I got out of the fridge. Alright. So I'm just going to take this out. And try to disturb it as little as possible. So I'm just kind of going to peel it back. If I had a bigger bag, it would have worked better, but that was just what I had. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this on top of my banneton, and then I'm going to flip it over. Alright, and that's how it comes out. Yes, there's a lot of flour, and that's okay. Alright, so I just kind of brush as much of the flour off as I can. You can, if you really don't want that kind of flour, you can use your sharp knife or the lamb. And whenever I say lamb, it's spelled L-A-M-E. If you're going to look for one online. So you can use that to kind of scrape some of the, lightly scrape some of the flour off. The flour was just in there heavily so that it would not stick really badly to the banneton cover. So you don't really need all of this flour. It was just there to keep it from sticking. Alright. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hold it at an angle so that it's going to give it a little bit of a lip where it's supposed to. So if you hold it at like a 45-degree angle when you do your cut. And like I said, I'm just going to do a simple cut. And go from there. So you just take it, okay, and what you're doing is you're allowing this part in here will expand and open up, and that's going to give you a lot more lift in your loaf. Alright, so now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get it into the oven, and I will place some ice in the bottom of my oven. You have to make sure that your oven you're able to do that with your oven, but that's just to give it a little bit of steam. But that's what I will do with my oven. I will put it in here and I'm going to bake it for approximately 45 minutes. So it's come out of the oven and it looks delicious. Look at that. It looks like it was trying to burst out. It's beautiful. It has actually been out of the oven for quite a while. Because before you cut it, you want to try to make sure that it is almost completely cooled off. One of the reasons that you do that is because it will store for longer. It's not going to last very long around here. I'm going to cut into it and I'm going to show you what the inside looks like. If you lay it on its side, it actually cuts better. So that's what it looks like on the inside. And it smells so good. Well, you know, I have to test it to make sure it's okay. It's really good. It's really soft and moist on the inside. Chewy crust. It's just got a really good texture. It's slightly tangy, but that's the way it's supposed to be. If you don't want it as tangy, then you leave it in the refrigerator for a less amount of time. So the longer that it stays in the refrigerator, the longer it's going to ferment, and that fermentation is what gives it the sour flavor. So you can leave it in there a little bit less amount of time. Another thing that would help you if it's really tangy is to make sure if you're feeding your starter, do not mix in any of the hooch. That is actually, it'll give it a stronger sour flavor. So make sure you're draining, you're draining off the hooch before you actually feed your starter. That will help you to make sure that you don't have quite as bit of a sour flavor. If you have any questions about sourdough bread making, just leave it in the comments below and I'd be happy to try to get back with you. I'm probably going to do a Q&A on my next live on sourdough and canning. So I'll probably do questions on both. So thanks so much for spending time with me today, and we'll see you soon.
Standing tall with all my faith, empty voices in my head, they were